Alright gamers, well I know this game has been out for more than a year now, and I have been longing to do a review on this one, especially since I touched surface with the first one shortly after its release in 2016, and that is the sequel to the 2016 reboot sequel, Doom Eternal. Yes, as you may have guessed, that the 2016 game that came out for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, as well as eventually a Nintendo Switch release and a PC version as well, which I usually don't get into. Anyway, you can prove me wrong if it's better than the console versions, but most of the time I get into the console versions, and that game was great. I mean, I was a bit skeptical like anybody else was, but it did much better than expected, and compared to Doom 3, it thankfully rebooted the series back to its full glory, as well as adding in new features and things to keep it fresh and familiar for all Doom fans. It's a bloody good fun time, and well, obviously as you guessed, the sequel I very well anticipated, and after several delays and being released during the middle of a pandemic, which pretty much everybody was home playing video games, and I hope everyone's staying safe, by the way. I know this thing has been going on for quite a while, but things are starting to get better. But as you know, I mentioned this game several times. I even included it as the #1 best video game of last year, despite it being one of the worst years ever. But hey, there are some silver linings, and why not, right? As you know, I did not get this game in a physical copy because my local GameStop stores were closed, and I didn't want to wait to order it online because I was anxious to play this one as soon as it released, so I downloaded it digitally. So, let's take a trip into hell yet again to see once and for all why this one is #1 on my best video game list of 2020, shall we? Alright, well, taking place years after the original one, and you probably already know how the first one ends. You defeat that giant demon boss, and this time, as opposed to going to Mars, which is basically like the Hellish version, Hell comes right to Earth this time and wipes out 60% of humanity. Jeez, that puts Thanos to shame just slightly, I would say. But anyway, yes. Hell comes to Earth this time. Just about everything is in ruins, which pretty much sums up what the year 2020 was like. And it's up to you to grab your gear and get back into action with shooting and blowing shit away. Fight the demons and monsters and reclaim what is rightfully ours. All the demons and monsters that you remember from the last game should seem familiar, as well as the gameplay elements, jumping, shooting, chainsawing, as long as you have enough gas, even melee attacking, depending on which enemies you hit. But most of the time, if they flicker, you know, that certain color, that means they're very low on health. If you hit them and melee attack them, boom, they go down. And the different melee attacks that you do on them, once again, yeah, it's pretty much the same as the last game, but it's just as satisfying as ever to take them out, or do whatever you can to pretty much finish them off. Ooh, yeah, look at all that blood. The level designs are great once again. I mean, the production value and everything, especially for PS4 standards, just because of obviously that's the console I'm playing it on, definitely isn't afraid to show its graphical capabilities. I mean, it looks fantastic. Yeah, everything's in ruins. Nobody wants to see Earth look like this, but hey, this is what happens when Hell comes to Earth. Welcome to Hell, right here. And well, you may be wondering what exactly the story is, aside from fighting your way through enemies. And that is that the doctor who programmed you has apparently betrayed you and sent you away, where you learn about these so-called evil angels that have taken control of the demon spirits, and this big-ass one in which they have to perform a ritual sacrifice. And who else are they going to sacrifice? Yep, the human race, of course. So it's up to you to stop them. And you do so by making your way back to Earth, which, as I mentioned before, is basically destroyed, in ruins, fighting your way through a mirage of enemies, one after another, all sorts of different traps, make your way through a bunch of palaces and castles, eventually making your way back down to Hell, make your way back into space, make your way even back to Mars, where you have to take the fight to them. You get a lot of the familiar enemies that you remember from the first game, which some are easy, and then others can be a real pain in the ass. And then some new ones as well, like these big arachnic looking ones with a big brain and a scorpion tail cannon. These big guys with the big swords that try to slash at you as many times as they can. These big floating looking head demons. Yes, you get the same ones from the last game, but you get even bigger ones that are even tougher to kill and throw flaming flying skulls at you on top of that. Yeah, Most of you who played Doom 2 probably remember these enemies, as well as this big-ass mother. Yeah, this guy does not screw around. He will definitely try to kick the living shit out of you, believe me. As well as these cybernetic demons that are on this sort of hoverboard-looking thing. These guys will also try to kick, or I should say shoot the living shit out of you. And, well, they come in two phases with trying to defeat them. You have to destroy them when they're on and then off the hoverboard looking thing, because I guess that means you destroyed it the first round of fighting him. But yeah, this guy can really put up a fight. He not only tries to shoot you, but then he launches a barrage of missiles at you. I mean, damn. You also get these snake looking ones that attack and slither around really fast. This can make it rather tricky to try to shoot them, but they're not impossible to take out. But also the worst, I think, are these guys with the shield that go around and block pretty much every one of your attacks. And on top of that, they summon a phantom-looking demon. I mean, Christ. Yeah, they could be taken out very easily with just one shot of a bullet, but our main foe here that summons them, you barely get a small window to be able to do so, and you gotta have the right amount of patience and precision to be able to take them down. And not only you get the return of enemies that hold shields, but also these cybernetic looking ones that create cybernetic looking shields to not only protect themselves, but also some of the enemies around them. Freaking assholes. Hate these guys. And then there's several parts where all the enemies are red and much stronger and tougher to take out. Oof, okay, yeah. This either means that you have to find and punch the sword and boom, all that's gone. Or even worse, when you have to track down and find the summoner. Yes, he hides behind his flames, and let me tell you, he is a real pain in the ass to try to take out. He's super strong, and has the ability to teleport, making the fight even more frustrating, which means you have to track him down yet again and take down his stupid fire shield. Fight him, trying to take him down for good while avoiding the more powerful enemies that he's basically giving all these powers to. Because even they will try to gang up and kick the living shit out of you, while you're trying to get rid of and drain their super demonic power source. Yeah, trust me. These parts of the game are just as much of a living hell as you'd expect them to be. Even on the easiest difficulty, they can drive you to the point of rage and frustration. So, the best approach, find smaller, weaker enemies, melee attack or chainsaw them, get as much health and ammo back as you possibly can, because, well, they will give you it, trust me. Very courteous little demons, aren't they? Oh, and these floating head guys from the last game, you already know the trick. Just feed him a grenade, and you can just melee attack him. Simple as that. So, as you can tell, the game does require some good strategy to get through it, as well as some good precision jumping. Yeah, if you weren't a fan of platform jumping in the previous game, then be ready, because there's definitely a lot of it in this one. You got large gaps, which most of the time requires a double jump, which, yes, that makes a return in this game, as well as poles that you can swing off of to help give you a boost. And sometimes when trying to make these jumps, you'll also have to try to contend with different traps and hazards that can deal damage. Yeah, there's lots of traps in this game, which some of them can either drain your health, and some can even kill you instantly. I mean, damn. Yeah, trust me. These parts of the game are just as much of a living hell as you'd expect them to be. Even on the easiest difficulty, they can drive you to the point of rage and frustration. So, the best approach, find smaller, weaker enemies, melee attack or chainsaw them, get as much health and ammo back as you possibly can, because, well, they will give you it, trust me. Very courteous little demons, aren't they? Oh, and these floating head guys from the last game, you already know the trick. Just feed him a grenade, and you can just melee attack him. Simple as that. So, as you can tell, the game does require some good strategy to get through it, as well as some good precision jumping. Yeah, if you weren't a fan of platform jumping in the previous game, then be ready, because there's definitely a lot of it in this one. You got large gaps, which most of the time requires a double jump, which, yes, that makes a return in this game, as well as poles that you can swing off of to help give you a boost. And sometimes when trying to make these jumps, you'll also have to try to contend with different traps and hazards that can deal damage. Yeah, there's lots of traps in this game, which some of them can either drain your health, and some can even kill you instantly. I mean, dang. But getting back to the jumps, yes, double jumping is definitely a necessity, as well as using the speed boost that you get later on in the game. Definitely useful when trying to get across these extra long bottomless pits. And just like the double jump, you can use it twice in a row within the short span. And not only that, but you can also perform it on land too as well. Definitely useful when you're surrounded by whole hordes of enemies and you're just trying to get away faster. And especially when trying to avoid these spike crusher things from killing you. And also when you're trying to jump across these long gaps, you may also notice these things with holes in them. And that is that they are climbable walls that you can grab onto. You do so by either pressing the boost or R3 on your controller. And depending on how big they are, because yeah, a lot of them are different sizes, sometimes you can climb up them, sometimes you can go side to side on them, sometimes there may be even more than one of them you have to grab onto, where you have to go from one to another. Sometimes at a level spot, sometimes at a higher spot. And sometimes you even get these small ones that you have to grab onto, but only for a short time before they collapse, and then you have to go from one to another. I mean, talk about an endurance test where you have to act fast with good precision right there. But anyway, yes, you're going to be seeing a lot of these in the game, and the locations make great usage of them. That's for damn sure. And even later on in the game, you come across these weird pill-looking things that are floating in the air. That is because they give you an extra boost, or I'm sorry, dash while in the air. Yeah, forgive me, I stand corrected on that mistaken term, but aren't dash and boost very similar? Whatever. It gives you an extra dash. There can be more than one of them floating around, which can definitely be useful when trying to make it across these long stretches of landless sections. So like I said before, if you don't like bottomless pits, be ready for it, because these parts of the game can definitely frustrate the living shit out of you. But I do like the variety of them in this game. It's not all just the same. There's plenty of variety with trying to jump across pits, traps, puzzles. You sometimes have to break your way through walls using the melee attack. Move these big blocks that have the green on them. Yep, green is a go right there. Plenty of secret rooms that make a return. Only thing that doesn't make a return I never found are the classic Doom rooms. What the hell's up with that? Seriously? I mean, they could have fit them in this game with all they put in here. Although I do actually sort of take it back, you actually can unlock and play the entire game of Doom 1 and 2 on your ship after completing the entire campaign mode on any difficulty. Yep, you go to this location on this computer screen and realize you have to unlock them. Unlocking the second one is not as hard as the first one, just gotta know the right code to put in. Unlocking the first one, on the other hand, definitely requires a lot more collectible hunting, which means more backtracking to do so. So, I'll give them credit, that's a nice nostalgic touch there.